Hello and welcome to the Glory.Talk Podcast, a ministry of Glory Dance. I'm your host, Roz Mignona.
Well, today is exciting because it is the first Glory.Talk HEALTH Podcast. As a nutritional therapy practitioner and student midwife, I am still very passionate about health and nutrition and natural wellness. And in this episode, I'm giving you an update on everything related to our health programs and website and our new ebooks. Hey, I hope you're doing well. This is my first Glory.Talk Health Podcast. So this is a health-focused podcast because my career and my degrees in nutrition, nutritional therapy, and for many, many years, since 2006 actually, I ran a blog called Real Food Family that was like natural health and food and lifestyle. And oh my goodness, after all of the years, there's all sorts of blog posts, articles on there, ranging from food and recipes to our homesteading adventures and so much more. So the website is realfoodfamily.com. And we recently just updated the website and added 2 ebooks that you can purchase. And what these ebooks are is my first cookbook that I published 2009. It was called Complete Guide to Real Food, and it still is. And we turned it into ebook format. And so when you go to realfoodfamily.com, just right there on the homepage, you can click on that ebook, Complete Guide to Real Food. And what I have on there is a blood sugar regulation diet. So it's kind of a meal planning cookbook, or it is a meal planning cookbook. And it has a 1 week, 3 meals a day blood sugar regulation diet. So this will be a low carb diet, something for most people that are in a stage of just what we would say blood sugar dysfunction. I'm not going to diagnose illness or claim any diet for a specific illness or disease, but if balancing and managing blood sugar and regulating blood sugar is something you're interested in, and I would actually say everyone should be interested in that, there's a 7-week blood sugar regulation diet meal plan with a complete shopping list to go along. And then there are 4 additional weeks of meal plans with shopping lists and recipes and everything you need to continue on with not necessarily blood sugar regulation, but just general real food, whole foods only, traditional approach to eating. And so you can find all of that in that ebook. And then the other ebook that we've put out and published for you to be able to get is called Real Food Weekly. And you can get this either by going to realfoodfamily.com or realfoodweekly.com. So while we were running the blog, we put out for a couple years a monthly subscription program of weekly meal plans. And oh my goodness, this was so much work. I would make the meals, test the recipes. These were all original recipes. And I would put out 4 to 5 dinner meals plus extra snacks and nourishing additions, we called it, and have this beautiful PDF designed and put together. And we put this out every single week. And then after I totally crashed and burned with all my children and all the things we had going on, we turned this into a library access subscription. So you could purchase access to the meal plans. You could purchase them individually, or you could buy access to the whole library. And then that website got completely closed from me. Like I could not get access into it, the apps that we had. And this was years ago. So things were just kind of getting started with all of the blogging tools and e-commerce and stuff. And it just crashed on me and I could not get access to it. So it was just stuck there forever. And finally we got in through the back end, and I basically just had to revert the entire website. Couldn't get back into it, but revert the whole thing to just forward to realfoodfamily.com. That's why you can use both websites. But we put together this huge cookbook meal planning cookbook, actually, or meal plans library cookbook, which literally has hundreds of family meal recipes. And I did everything by season, so it's all organized month by month. The photos are beautiful. Like the chapter covers for each month are just these beautiful designs my husband made and put together, and it's 686 pages, I think. So you get this gigantic library of meal plans and recipes, including shopping lists if you want to follow the whole plan. And you download, it's an ebook and it's a PDF, and in the table of contents you can click on each month and it'll take you to that month of plans. So there's anywhere from like 4 or 5 plans in some months up to 10, I think is a month that has the most meal plans. So it was all based on just collecting over the years, and we just, moving on to a new season of life, we didn't want to ignore all of the work that we put in to Real Food Family over all the years. And it took us a little while to update everything and make it look really nice as an ebook, but I'm so pleased with the outcome, because these 2 books are beautiful, and I downloaded them, we have 2 iPads, put them on the iPads. And what's cool is my kids are like browsing through all the recipes, and my oldest daughter loves to bake, and she's already figuring out things that she wants to bake. And actually, this shows you how burned out I got with creating recipes. She's like, "You used to cook like this? I didn't know you were such a good cook. I didn't know you made recipes." And I'm like, "Yeah, thanks." I don't know if that's a compliment or what, but typical teenage comment. So anyway, I'm just so thrilled that those ebooks are now available. We did a nice fresh website update. It should be nice and clean and simple. And you can also go check out the blog archives. And you can use the search engine to just search anything. We have sourdough recipes, kombucha, like we did it all. I was part of the traditional food, Weston Price traditional food movement for so long. And then if you have followed my Real Food Family blog, you might know that I turned to carnivore in diet, which is like an all meat diet, all 100% animal-based diet. And I'm excited to share a little bit more with you about that. But that, I think, is one of the most recent, the 2 most recent, most common blog posts that I share are the ones that are still there at the most recent, like the last couple blog posts that I created. I did a series on minimalism. There's a protein for kids recipe, but the last 2 was why we quit homesteading, which has many stories of our homesteading adventures and failures. And it's so funny because since everyone seems to be wanting to move out of state, like I'm in California now, but move out of state and buy land and have a farm. And I'm like, oh, I did that. Yeah, I did that. And I'm back at the beach now happily, but it's not for everybody. And I pursued that homestead dream for 10 plus years. I did it. I have so many stories. It is such a blessing to just kind of go back and see all that the Lord has brought us through. But we now, I was able to put that blog post together where I say it's not the easiest thing. There's a lot of trial, and if you're considering homesteading, you've got to read this post because it kind of just tells you why we ultimately quit the homestead life. And it was totally a God thing because God has used all of those years for a purpose. And I was always worried that, God, why did we spend so many years, a decade, and all of these years with our young family pursuing such a difficult lifestyle with farm animals and all of this? But the truth is God is faithful to bring it all together, and nothing was a waste. And we have all these memories, but also all these skills that we're actually using in ministry as we move ahead. So that's really exciting, and hopefully you will consider seeing what we've got going on at realfoodfamily.com and look at those ebooks. And you should be set with those meal plans. And if you don't already cook real food for your family, this is a great place to start. And I would love for you to check it out. And of course, get a hold of me and let me know what you think of those books. I wanted to talk a little bit now about that carnivore diet. So let's see, it was 2020. I've always dealt with some pretty intense hormonal issues. After having each of my kids, it's like every time I have a child, and I have 4, I've gone through like a hurricane body-wise, and my body ends up dealing with more difficult issues. Nothing major, and I'm so grateful for the health that I have. But as a nutritional therapy practitioner, I identify things that are very, very resistant to change. And there are many women who have gone through the same thing, and it's very difficult, honestly, for people who have not gone through the type of stubborn body issues to truly understand what it's like to do everything you are, quote unquote, supposed to do to conquer health issues like weight management and thyroid and female health hormones and things like that, and just to have little to no progress. And so I decided to commit completely to ketogenic diet, and I discovered in that process that there were some wonderful things about being ketogenic for an extended period of time, and I truly believe that everyone should do this, and I'll explain that in a minute. But I discovered that I have a pretty serious food addiction problem, meaning I have what I would consider unhealthy attachments and purposes for eating and for food and eating. And so that is just like any other addiction. That's something that is important to recognize. And so it's not necessarily addiction like eating it like crazy. It's just having not super healthy relationships with food and the reasons why you eat and the reasons why you eat what you do, or not binge eating, but like emotional eating, where you don't have, let's say you're expecting to lose a pound or 2 in a couple weeks, and you go to the scale and you've worked so hard and nothing works, and so you punish yourself by saying nothing works for me, forget it, and I'm just going to give up on everything. And we go through this emotional cycle related to food and what we're eating, and it's very common. It's what leads to yo-yo dieting, and a lot of my health issues, or food and eating issues, were never really an issue. But I had discovered that over recent years, with the stresses of life and all that we do with our kids and many different things on our plate, I was starting to really connect emotionally with food and eating. So I discovered in my journey with ketogenic that I was becoming fat adapted after about 6 weeks, but I was obsessing over the foods I was going to have ready. Like, it was just so all consuming, thinking about the food and making ketogenic treats and stuff. And so I started listening to lots of podcasts and authors and reading about this carnivore diet. And at first I was like, you've got to be kidding me. Carnivore diet? Like, you only eat meat? How are you going to get all of your plant nutrients? How are you going to, have healthy digestion? And I had all of the arguments locked and loaded and ready. But then as I studied it more, it made absolute sense to me. And I did it. And it was really freeing and liberating as far as the food addiction. That got completely under control. So within a week of being fully carnivore, this was like the summer of 2020, I no longer was obsessing about food I wasn't thinking about food. It was like so emotionally and mentally freeing to just know that I was just going to be eating meat, and I enjoyed eating meat, and that's all I needed to eat, and I would be fine. And and my blood sugar, which for probably 20 years of my life has been extremely sensitive and delicate to ups and downs and being super affected by food, carnivore completely balanced my blood sugar and hunger. I've never been so not hungry in my entire life. It's like my body suddenly knew exactly what to do when it needed energy, and it didn't always have to come from food. No more cravings for sugar. It was like amazing. And I did have success with body fat percentage coming down. I do like to do a lot of strength training, and so muscle weight was being maintained and going up, because, side note, if you do not maintain a certain amount of protein and you're lower in calorie, then than a pretty, sufficient amount of calories per day, your body will lose muscle weight. So a lot of people think they're so successful in their weight loss, but I would encourage you, this is a total side note, totally encourage you, if you have weight, body composition goals, take a DEXA scan before you start. Let's say you want to lose body fat, get a DEXA scan, because a lot of people I watch and practice, they go super low calorie or low protein and they're just eating like rabbit food and they lose weight. But if they would have taken a DEXA scan, guaranteed their lean muscle mass is not the same as when they started. You want to teach your body to use body fat for energy instead of always relying on food, and to lose body fat and not steal from your muscles when your body needs energy by way of gluconeogenesis, creating glucose for energy from protein. Okay, so carnivore. Biggest lesson learned, you can get all of the nutrients you need from animal foods. To think otherwise is a factual myth. So this was the hardest thing to swallow, because I was someone who would eat a gigantic bowl of salad, organic, dark, mixed leafy greens every single day for years. It was always my lunch. I loved putting salads together. I thought I was so healthy, kale, spinach, blah, 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 everything. I was doing it and learning that I could actually get way more nutrition from a ribeye steak than I can from a kale and spinach salad. When you just look at the tables of information and see the nutrient breakdown, it's totally true. You can get every nutrient you need in the form that your body wants it in. It doesn't have to convert it from the plant version. You can get it from animal foods. So this lie that people think they need to eat all of this disgusting food like kale and whatever it is. I mean, it's what's amazing to me too is that we take all of these what we call superfoods like kale and spinach or whatever, and we dehydrate them, or we fry them in a vegetable oil of some kind, and then we do all of these things to make them more tasty, or put them in a salad that has all of these polyunsaturated fatty acids from vegetable oils and olive oils and things in a salad dressing, and then we think we're so healthy. And it's like, no, you've literally just eaten a fraction of what you could be getting from meat, nutrition-wise, vitamins, minerals, all of those things. Yes, they are actually more bioavailable and more present in meat, in animal foods, and specifically, guys, red meat, beef, lamb, ruminant animal meats and their organs, than you can find in any plant food out there. So nutrition density of animal foods is by far better than plant foods. But then the next step is the toxicity of plant foods. So most plants are designed to keep you from eating them so they can survive in nature. They have a bitter flavor. They do all of these things to keep you away. They grow spikes. They grow a sap that's difficult to have in your mouth and on your palate. And there's just all of these different elements of plants that are designed to keep them from being eaten so they can survive. And they also produce toxins. So toxins in plants are lectins and phytates and oxalates. And these are little toxic things, and there's a bunch more. And there's great resources I can share with you about this, but plant toxins are real, and your body will just store these toxins in mass because it has no way to detoxify them, does not use them, and just stores them. So like oxalates, when I stopped eating plants completely in my big gigantic dark greens salad every day, I had what you call keto rash or oxalate rash, where it's like poison ivy, which, by the way, oxalates in poison ivy, that's how it keeps you from destroying it, because it poisons you, and it's the oxalates that get under your skin. So my body for all these years has been storing these oxalates, and I developed this rash that was like scabs on my arms. And at first I freaked out, and then I researched it, and it was I had exactly what I was reading was an oxalate rash. And I would scratch it, and there'd be like little crystals coming off in my hands, like little teeny tiny pieces of salt or sugar. And this is oxalate detoxification, and your body won't detox from these plant toxins until it doesn't have to store them anymore. So it's actually a common thing that when you stop eating plant toxins like this, your body will detox them. Most of the time, things like kidney stones are oxalates. So for instance, I did get kidney stones about 6 months after I started carnivore. And at first I was like, oh my gosh, it's uric acid and from eating high protein. But when we checked and saw what was going on, I actually had many little oxalate crystals in my kidneys, and these were oxalate crystals. So so this is from plant toxins. And I had also been drinking a tea made of lots of essential oil, like way more than anyone should be consuming orally of essential oil, safe for internal use. This was an essential oil that has a supplements facts label to be used as a supplement internally. However, I was using way too much, and I think that my kidney stone passage was actually caused by the stimulation of detox from the essential oil. So that was kind of something I had to study through and figure out, okay, is it the carnivore diet? But the truth is I hadn't really been carnivore for months leading up to that event of the kidney stone issue. So, but I did take it into consideration. And at first someone might think, oh, it must be that high protein, high carnivore diet you're on. But when you really understand that most kidney stones are made of oxalates, and I had already been oxalate detoxing for so long, it made a lot more sense that that's what was happening. And I've continued to be very high protein and very high carnivore diet since, and I haven't had any more stones, any more issues. So kidney stones is very common in people who are very plant toxin heavy, where they eat a lot of plants that contain high oxalates, plant toxins to the human body. So this is going to be a lot of those, what people call superfoods, those dark green leafy vegetables. Oh my goodness, I used to go to Nectar and get these like super greens juices in like the giant size, and I would drink them. I mean, to think of the amount of oxalates I have poured into my body over the last 20 years, it blows my mind. So anyway, plant toxins are real, and I think the best book to get on this is going to be by Paul Saladino, MD, and he wrote a book that is called Carnivore Code. And there's a bunch of carnivore people that have written books on it. And the truth is, though, a lot of people ask, are you still eating carnivore? And some of the people who are popular, they've written books, or they're doctors that speak on the carnivore diet and promote the carnivore diet, but some are actually coming out as saying, I'm not carnivore anymore. So is carnivore just this big fad? And those types of questions. Now, as I look at my experience, relieving myself in identifying food addiction and knowing what it feels like to not have that food addiction going on because I'm eating carnivore, I did lose body fat. I did. And it's hard to say, because the truth be told, I've gained that back, but I've also played with some different muscle growing diets and just not diets, but like practices and macronutrient balancing and ways to increase body fat or increase muscle mass and lose body fat. But I basically, I personally have a very stubborn body that is very much driven by hormonal issues. So it's not as easy as just eat this diet and all your dreams will come true, and this diet worked for me, so it's going to work for you. It's never that simple. That's why I got into nutritional therapy. But let me just tell you before I explain what I do now, I guess, what I learned from going keto and carnivore. Number one, I believe that fat adaption, which is where your body has learned to be able to get energy both from sugar and from fat, is something that everyone should do. It is an ancestral practice. Up until just very recently in history, humans have had to eat seasonally. They couldn't refrigerate stuff. They had to eat off of the land. And let me tell you, as someone who has homesteaded for many years, most areas of the planet cannot be sustained on farming plant foods alone. Just as Weston Price studied himself physically, going all over the world to find indigenous cultures, not one culture in the world, indigenous culture, is vegan. And even the most plant-based group out there in the world that Weston Price and his proteges were able to discover, they thrived on eating insects and protein and animal-based foods of the land. So veganism is not something that has been practiced in any culture in the world until most recently, when it's become available basically through transporting food and mass production of single crops. And anyway, this isn't a podcast on veganism, but I have a lot of arguments against veganism, from the environmental impact to the nutritional deficit of it, to the kind of religion type of diet it is, where people just get like religious about it. So fat adaption, this is something that humans for most of time have had to do, where there were at least long seasons of the year that they would be eating basically carnivore. I mean, when I lived in Iowa, and I'm thinking, man, if I was native to here and I was living off of the land, there's pretty much a good 6 months of the year I'm going to be eating mostly animal food, because it's ice out here. It's freezing cold. There are no plants that you can eat. I could have stored stuff, yes, but the easiest food to eat would be the animals that I can go out and hunt. So anyway, this is just realistic life. And where our bodies are designed to get energy both from sugar and from fat. But as long as you feed your body sugar in the form of any carbohydrate, you're going to use that for energy, and you're not going to tap into fat. So if you get yourself fat adapted first by eating ketogenic and getting yourself in a deficit of carbohydrates that can be used for energy, then you're going to teach your body to use fat as energy. And guess what? Once you're fat adapted physically with your metabolic health, you will be able to mess with your macronutrient balance, your fat, your carbs, and your proteins, to be able to train your body to use its own body fat as energy. So step one is fat adaption by not restricting carbohydrates from your diet. So with a truly ketogenic diet, for about 12 weeks is ideal. Being super committed to that. And once you do that, you will be in fat adaption zone, and you'll be able to more easily, with less, major ups and downs of hunger and blood sugar and that type of thing, you'll be able to just go back and forth between eating carbs and not, and never have to go through some major withdrawals like the what they call the keto flu, where you're so sick because your body has no idea how to live off of fat instead of carbs. But the truth is that your body is totally capable, and your body likes to be in fat metabolism, where you're using fat for energy, because it's much better for your blood sugar regulation and dealing with glucose levels. And there's so many reasons why, and the ketogenic bloggers and influencers are the ones that can share all the information about that. But I would say, in my experience, becoming fat adapted is one of the most valuable tools I've ever done with my own diet process. And then now I'm able to go back and forth. So I consider plant foods to be entertainment. I really love roasting vegetables and cucumbers, and there's different foods I love. I like adding vegetables to my homemade chicken stock with the bones and the meat, and zucchini and carrots and broccoli or broccolini that I love to add in my soup. I love garlic, love onions. I tend to eat more garlic than onions. Onions do have quite a bit of sugar in them, but I'm totally capable of going back and forth between adding sugar foods, carbohydrates, including fruits, raw honey, vegetables, and sometimes treats, maybe some of my husband's delicious homemade sourdough bread every once in a while, but I'm able to go back and forth without any issue. I'm able to go into a week of straight carnivore diet if I want to, and I really feel like that is something my body wants. And so that actually reminds me that learning to eat intuitively is something that doesn't happen right away. I believe it can only happen in fat adaptation, because as long as your body's relying on glucose for energy, you're going to, your body's intuition for what to eat is pretty much going to always turn to carbs, because your carbs are like kindling of a fire. It burns quickly. The fire can consume it very easily, versus fat, which is like the logs of a fire. It takes time, but once it is on fire and being used for energy or to fuel that fire, it burns long and slow. So if you're always feeding yourself the glucose, then your body's just going to want that right away. So it's kind of difficult to be an intuitive eater if you have not accomplished fat adaptation yet. So now I definitely like to incorporate plant foods as entertainment, but I am completely liberated from the idea that I need to eat my veggies every day, because it's just a lie. It just flat out is a lie. Plants have toxins in them that my body doesn't like to hold on to or detoxify, so I'm not going to overdo it. And then plants are glucose, and so they're not totally necessary, and I can get way more nutrition from capsules of beef liver and organs that I'm consuming than I can from a giant bowl of kale and spinach that really my body doesn't like. And quite frankly, digestively, my body does not, now that I've separated it, my body does not want or need those plant quote-unquote superfoods that aren't really superfoods. My digestion does not want those. My digestion loves the way I'm eating now, which is mostly meat, mostly animal foods, and plants for protein, and they're usually not raw. I'm usually cooking and roasting and garlicking my vegetables, so they're entertainment. But I definitely don't overdo it, and it's been working really well for me. I would also say that I've learned that high protein is ideal. It blows my mind, the research that proves that there is, number one, no issues with eating high protein. I still, in my nutrition circles, come across people who are so adamantly against high protein diets. And the truth is, the research over and over again shows us that our bodies want protein, and we can handle a very high amount of protein without any negative response. And so when I say high amount of protein, the RDA for protein is like 0.8 grams per kilogram of body weight, I think. But if you refer that to the, what we use in the United States for our measuring system, we can actually handle 1 to 2 grams of protein per pound of body weight, which is going to be more than the kilograms, obviously. And that's kind of a minimum if you would like to maintain or slightly increase your muscle mass. So the idea of eating too much protein, you have to eat such an exorbitant amount of protein. I don't even think that's possible, and I eat a lot of protein. So there's just kind of a rule of thumb. Eat 30 grams of protein at every meal. And if you get to that threshold, and this is for a normal adult, if you get to that threshold, you're pretty much going to guarantee that your body is going to maintain its muscle mass and possibly increase it. So if you want to majorly increase muscle mass, you're going to have to majorly increase your protein intake. Ketogenic might not be the best. That's debatable. There's some super ketogenic people that are convinced that you can build plenty of muscle on ketogenic, but I don't know. In my research, it seems your body is much more apt to build more muscle with carbohydrate. So if you are wanting to build major amounts of muscle, bodybuilding men, I would say go ahead and liberally add like fruit and honey, raw honey, and white rice and things like that to your diet. And I said white rice because there's a lot of phytates and plant toxins in the bran that is on the brown rice. So here we go. It's like brown rice, white rice, they both have the sugar, but everyone goes, oh, but the nutrition is in the brown rice. Well, actually, that's a shell that we really traditionally would have removed because it's very difficult to digest, and it has a bunch of plant toxins in it. So ditch your brown rice and your raw cabbage and all that stuff. And if you're going to eat the rice, just eat the plain white rice. Your body handles it very well, and it just turns into sugar anyway, whether it's brown or white. And the white at least doesn't have the toxins, as long as it's not like bleached and chlorinated, which is another issue. So organic white rice, okay? So just one more note on this protein thing. I would say that learning from the carnivore diet and researching and studying the whole concept of what is an ideal amount of protein, I came across the protein hypothesis, and I'll have to put it in the notes for the podcast or something, who actually came up with this concept. A couple of researchers, PhDs in nutrition, and oh goodness, I can't believe I forgot what these guys' names are. But anyway, this protein hypothesis is basically that your body needs and wants protein. And so it is going to be searching for protein sources at every meal. And you will continue to be hungry until you meet that protein threshold. So you can eat, if you eat a bunch of carbs or even a bunch of fat at a meal and not enough protein, your body's not going to be satisfied. Your metabolism is not going to be satisfied. It's going to keep eating or telling you to eat until you eat enough protein. Again, this is a hypothesis. It can't be proven, but based on the research with the animal studies they've done, and actually I could say that I corroborate on this concept with my own experience. If you sit and have a plate of, let's say, hamburger meat in front of you, and that's all you have, hamburger meat, you're only going to eat so much until you're done and you just can't eat anymore. You cannot overeat meat. It just, I don't know. If you can, great. But it's really difficult to just overeat meat. If you are a carb addict like me and are able to sit down, and if you're in the right emotional place, you're very easily capable of polishing off an entire plate of brownies because you have some weird mental game going on. Your body will just keep eating and eating. You might get a pretty bad stomach ache. I don't know. Sometimes when I was younger, I wouldn't. Nowadays, I definitely would. But your body doesn't have like a stop sign on carbs and fat. French fries, maybe, whatever it is. However, if we're talking just straight up protein, your body absolutely creates a stop sign for you. So I would say now I focus on higher protein with every meal. I really study how much my body is putting out energy-wise versus what I need to eat. It is true as you get older and you're just, even if, like, I'm very active. I do a lot of activity and fitness, but just my food requirements, I believe, have changed over the years, and metabolism is a lot more difficult to deal with as you get older. I think that's just a sad fact. At least it is for me. But I think that's mixed in with hormone changes. So I, as a woman, am very interested in studying, or I do a lot of studying in the area of eating based on what's happening through your monthly cycle, and that there are weeks where ketogenic and carnivore make a lot more sense than having carbs, and other weeks with different hormone spikes that it makes more sense to eat carbohydrates. Also, weeks that it's better to lift heavier weights versus weeks where it's better to actually do a lot more high volume of moderate weight or no weights at all, just moderate cardio exercising. So there's a book called The Betty Body, which is a really great resource for studying the female hormone relation to food and exercise. The Betty Body. And so I think that learning what your body needs as far as balancing the amount of food and the amount of fitness and exercise that you do in a day is really key to reaching goals. And I mean specifically with body fat percentage. And I just want to encourage you on two things. Number one, I mentioned this with the whole idea of a DEXA scan. We get so frustrated and hyper-focused on that number on a scale. And you've probably heard this before, but I'm just going to say it again because I struggle with this too. We look at the number on the scale and it doesn't move, after all the work you've done, and you get super frustrated. But what I've learned is that number on a scale is so ambiguous because your body fat percentage and lean muscle weight is so much more important. I mean, if you're losing body fat but gaining muscle at the same time, that scale number is not going to change. So for someone like me who spent all this time, hyper focusing on my ketogenic and carnivore diet and doing all of this fitness and then weight training at the same time, I did manage to lose, let's just say, I think it was maybe close to 20 pounds of body fat, maybe less. I don't know. It was like, I ended up losing in all of my efforts of about 6 to 8 months. I got down not quite 20 pounds, but the truth is my muscle mass increased by probably 5 to 8 pounds. So I always have to remind myself that there is an offset when you start doing more intense fitness and strength training and muscle building that is going to offset the number on the scale. So the best thing you could possibly do is get a DEXA scan that accurately measures, and you look it up because there's different people in different areas that offer these scans, but DEXA scan that will measure your actual body fat percentage, your lean muscle mass, and get those numbers in, and then be consistent with your plan, with your focus on what you're eating, higher protein, and then try to be fat adapted, but work on eating less energy food, fat and carbohydrate, more protein. And if you're fat adapted, your body will start using your own body fat when it needs energy. But again, you need to establish fat adaption, which usually requires a higher fat diet, very little carbs. So truly ketogenic diet. So like 60 grams of carbs or less per day, I think is pretty standard for keto, but strict keto is going to be 20 grams of carbs or less, and 70% of your diet will be from fat sources. So coconut oil, butter, animal fats, avocado, things like that. And I also want to encourage you to, if, I don't know, getting close to being over the hill, I guess, age-wise. I don't know how that works, but like what the official number is for that. But the truth is, I've come to a point in life where I realize gaining muscle is the most important thing to do, because after 50 years old, it is very difficult to increase muscle mass, like way more difficult than under 50. So I love that instead of focusing on skinny, I'm focusing on strong. I'm focusing on this term called hard to kill. Like, I want to be the person that can do the rock climbing and the gymnastics and running and all of the different, and dancing, of course, which is my main focus, without just physically being incapable of doing it or losing my balance or things like that. I want to be strong. I want to be hypermobile, able to move, able to do things, focusing on the positive, focusing on what I get to do versus stupid weight. Like, I'm so done spending all of this focus on my weight, and I'd much rather focus on what my body can do. And I do have to give myself grace, of course, because I have grown inside and out 4 beautiful children that I'm so grateful for, and so many people don't have that opportunity. So I just want to tell you right now, I am grateful for my body and what it is, what it has done, what the Lord has given me through this body. And I'm just encouraging you, as I encourage myself, to stop shaming myself for some standard that I hold myself to that isn't how God sees me. It's not what Jesus created me to see myself as some number on a scale. So I need to make sure I set that example for my children as well. So I encourage you in that. And finally, that gratefulness is so important. Now that I've started mission work and traveled, and I've done mission work my whole life and I've seen it, but honestly, I've never seen the level of poverty and starvation that I have seen in Africa. And it sounds cliche, but it really is true. I mean, the way that we eat and this concept of having a choice for, this great amount of different types of food we get to eat, it is just truly such a privilege. So I encourage you to be grateful for food and be grateful for the ability to choose the food you want to eat. It is truly unique. And I just want to give all glory to God for what He's brought me through, and always keep perspective in my heart and my mind as I approach these health issues and these health topics. All right, well, that's it for today. Thank you so much for listening. I hope this was encouraging, helpful in some way. I, for so many years, had people following Real Food Family, and I wanted to let you know I'm still here. I still am extremely passionate about food and health and holistic health and natural remedies for things, essential oils, all the things I've done for so many years. It's still there. It's just been a busy, crazy life. And here we are now. I'm excited to offer these new ebooks to everyone. I hope that they will be enjoyed by people and families everywhere. And thank you so much for listening. And hopefully you'll listen to all these Glory Talk podcasts. But I will be specific about the ones that are going to be about health topics, because it is still my focus. I am a student midwife right now. Health and wellness is still a major part of my life. So I'm still here with that for the Glory Talk Health Podcast. That's what we're going to be doing moving forward with the Real Food Family website. Thank you for listening to this episode of Glory Talk, a podcast ministry of Glory Dance. Visit our website, www.glory.dance, for our membership site info, our mission work support, and also our email list sign up and social media links. Get caught up with all the Glory Talk podcasts of the past, and also stay tuned for the next podcast coming up soon. May God richly bless you and your family today. Bye.